Alright, good afternoon. My name's Booker Smith. I'm going to be showing you how to pour water over ice cubes in Houdini and also how to make a field of grass. And throughout the process I'll show you, or I'll hint in different ways that you could expand this depending on your project needs. So to get started, we're going to create a tube. We control click that, and then we double click on tube, go inside. Alright, so we're going to create a transform, because if you modify certain items without a transform, they inherit strange properties and can behave incorrectly in the physics. And it's just generally best practices. Alright, so you can see it's a hollow tube right now, and we could stick with that, but we're going to instead, pardon me, go into the tube context here, and we're going to add end caps. And for the radius of the topmost portion, we're going to change it to 1.2, so there's a bit of a taper. Then we're going to go with our mouse over here, select this top face. Oh, we need to see here.
Penis.
Thank you, Harry. Harry's not being too helpful during this whole process. He said a crude word, and I think we can all forget about it, hopefully. Alright, I had the incorrect item selected while I was trying to do that action. Alright, so here we go. You can see that there's a bottom inside the cup. Top, it looks like a tumbler glass. It's pretty standard. And we're going to just increase these
Are you gonna try and hurt me?
loop. Oh, wrong button.
Okay, anybody?
Gonna increase the rows
Camera, because you will not touch that.
to 8, and we're gonna increase the columns to 16. And this is just so that when we render, we can at least have some decent amount of, pardon me, geometry to work with and intersections and things of that sort. And also for normal evaluation tools, if we did something with that, it would have enough points to evaluate properly from. And it also helps if we choose to subdivide. It's useful in general. So now we're going to add a ground plane. This is the first of the areas that you can expand, and you can do a lot of stuff with ground plane. Water spilling out of the glass and landing on it. Think of it as a table. Useful in many ways. So we're going to create that. And this also creates our auto-dop network, as you can see here. So we're going to select the tube object, and we're going to make it static. And give it a second. And it should be now a static RBD object. Alright, then we're going to create, by control clicking a box, we're going to create an ice cube. And you can add as many as you want. We're just going to create one to split for demonstration purposes. So first we're going to subdivide it. The subdivide node, and visualize that. And we're going to increase our depth to about 2. 2 should do it. And if you don't quite like the shape of that, that's more of a round ball of ice than a cube, you can use the poly bevel and insert it in between there. Oh, no, pardon me, that's out of order. But you can change the shape of the ice however you want by beveling the edges, or let's try it in this order. Okay. So you can get a lot of different shapes for the ice here. We're going to set it to a tidy value of 0.2. And then we're going to see what it looks like with the subdivision afterwards. Okay, still have the same issue. Alright. But this is fine to work with. We don't have any problems. It'll do exactly what we need it to. And you can change the shape of the ice however you want. This is just to show you the mechanics of setting it up rather than the actual modeling process. So we're going to use the transform button to scale it down to a reasonable size. It's pretty big ice, small glass, either perspective you want. Going to translate it to some height so it can fall into the glass. Going to go out of the object context, and we're going to set it as an RBD object. So now it should be the case that when we press play, it rests neatly inside the glass. Alright, so we're ready for our next step. We're going to control click the sphere.
You're talking too softly.
It's not picking it up. I can hear it.
Okay.
I can hear it in my ears, Harry. Pardon that interruption. And if it is too quiet and Harry is later vindicated in his belief, I sincerely apologize. Alright, so we're going to jump inside. Okay, he increased the volume for me. So if you hear increased volume in the video, that's what's going on. Alright, we're going to create a transform node here inside the sphere, just to give it some height. Going to move it to about 2.5. That should be good. We're going to scale it down. Go back to the object context. And we're going to create a particle fluids. And we're going to emit particles from this. All you have to do is click that. Hit enter since we're not emitting into any specific thing. Alright. And when we press play, we see it pouring, but oh no, there's a small problem. When we pause it, you see that the particles are pouring out of the sides of the cup. Now why is this? And this is a common mistake that's made early on, and can be pretty frustrating. So you go to the tube object, which is what is being penetrated through. Oh, pardon me, went down too far. And we go here to collisions, and it says use volume-based collision detection. We actually want to remove that because this is very thin. This is two-dimensional, and volume-based collision detection works differently than we need it to actually detect where the particles are and maintain them inside of what we think of the bounds for this cup as, because the way it evaluates it with math is a little different than how our eyes evaluate it. And anyways, fixing that button makes it work perfectly. Alright, so we're almost at the home stretch. You can see it pours in there just fine. And if you take a render, you will find that yes, water is indeed pouring in there. And if you want more control or more splashes, you're more than welcome to change the subdivisions in the settings for that fluid. And you can also change the shaders. I'll show you a couple things regarding the shaders here. In the material palette, you can see here glass, very small letters. Alright, so we want an incidence of refraction of 1.33 for water, but we already have water, it's already set up. And for ice, the IOR is 1.31. So we're going to go in here. Oh, not wrong button, pardon me. We're going to rename glass to ice. And we're going to, actually we're going to go into the material palette again, and we're going to create a second glass. And this one we'll keep regularly, and it's already set to 1.52, which is the incidence of refraction for normal glass. Alright, so we're going to go into the OBJ, pardon me, the object context, and we're going to take the material palette, we're going to put glass on our cup, and it's a little easier to see in here. We're going to put the ice we'll just do it differently. Go here into shop, back into the object, go to the box object, material, and then you can go here in the drag and drop and choose ice from that menu instead. Alright, so now when you render it, you should be able to see that the glass is refracting like glass, and that you can see the ice cube here, which has a slightly different instance of refraction than the water, and it's pouring in. Everything's working fine. Alright, so we're going to move out of that, and I have already previously done this project and saved it elsewhere, but you would save it and go ahead. I'm going to create a new one. Discard a new, and this is going to be producing grass. So first of all, you need a grid, and I personally like to increase the rows and columns to at least 20. This is because if you deform the plane with a mountain sop later, in fact we can do that right now, you want to have enough geometry to work with so that it's not crazy. 0.2 is plenty. You don't have to have this at all, but it's just something for visual interest. Okay, so we actually already have a hair button here. So if you've worked in Blender or Maya or other programs like that, that's one of the methods you can use to create simple grassy materials. So we'll click Add Fur, gives it a second, and bam, it already creates it, everything you need. Well, pretty much everything you need. And if you have this being used in a dynamics setting, right here's the Add Dynamics button. Everything you need is within that, and within the dynamics options up here. All the shelf tools, everything you need, just drag and drop it. But we're going to focus on just the basics of the grass for right now. So when we come into render view, actually, let's see. Go into grid objects and render. Here we go. So here is where its default hair material is located at. And when we render it, it's brown. And I mean, some grass is brown, but not for very long. So we want to change that to something a little more familiar. So we're going to go into the material palette. There's a lot of options here you can use. This default hair material can be expanded to do pretty much everything grass can do because their properties are fairly similar. But we're going to go with a simple basic diffuse color. Create it here. And we're going to change its base color to green, and we're going to make it a little darker. And then I'm going to go out of the shop here into these options. We're going to choose from the available materials in the shop. I'm going to choose diffuse, and there you see it's already green. So if you wanted to change the noisiness of it, you can change all of that here, base color, all the options you need, and you can simply replace it and change the address for any of these materials here. Like I said, there's the dynamics options that are available, everything else. And actually in the same way, it's pretty easy with Houdini. You can just drag and drop the other materials on for dirt. But there you have grass, and I've already saved out a different, previously saved out this grass version, so there's no need to, but it's already here. And that concludes my 2 tutorials, and the files are available, should be linked beneath the video or uploaded otherwise. Alright, bye bye.